Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Hey, before you go on to whatever today's topic is, because you just told me like 10 seconds ago and I can't remember it, but really, so I got an email from my brother, okay?
Okay.
And the email from my brother said, in essence, do I really have to watch a video? Don't you have it in text somewhere so I can read it instead of having to waste my time watching it?
I always have that complaint about lots of things.
I understand. Yeah, and I agree. But so I said, no, it's only on video. I mean, you sort of have to watch the video if you're going to see what we're talking about, because we're looking at images, right? And what things look like. It's not, you can't exactly understand what we're saying. So, all right, I'll go do it. So he goes and does it. And then he comes back and says, I prefer the text. I prefer the 90s websites. And so I said, do you think it's genetic or just, and I said, hey, I agree, but this is about, getting people to buy things from you, and you have to focus on the customer. I mean, because, if it doesn't induce the required behavior, it's not going to be effective regardless of what I like or you like.
Right.
So I just thought I'd share that feedback, and it may be genetic.
or generational, or any number of things. And
it could be memetic. It's just the memes that were spread. In my family, my
Sure.
mother and father were both PhD physicists.
Sure. And it's more of a form of what I would call a branded sale as opposed to a direct sale. In your world, there are websites that do things in order. It's a little bit more transactional and what do I want to call it? Directed.
Well,
this is
I've been exploring that a lot, right? Because obviously, besides working with you to help grow cybersecurity companies, I also have cybersecurity companies of my own and that I'm already invested in that we're working on growing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of the things that I find is that my website's not particularly important, but there's a reason for that. Not Angel to Exit, it's fairly important, but for these other ones, and that's because it's all through channel partners. And the sales process is always about having somebody, in person, spending time talking to them. I mean, I think I've mentioned, maybe not on one of these recordings, the guy that I met long ago in a plane, and he was in his 60s at the time, and I was in my 20s, maybe early 20s, and we were on a business trip, and I'm talking to this guy. I said, "So what do you sell?" And he said, "I sell air fleets." And I was like, "Air fleet? What's an air fleet?" Well, like Boeing, the 747 at the time, long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like I sold the 747 fleet. So wait a minute, the 747 fleet. Yeah, I say, boy, so what do you get paid for this? Well, it's commission. Oh my God. A commission on the fleet, not on one 747, on the whole fleet.
The
whole fleet, right? So these are like, hundreds of millions of dollars each, maybe billions each, right?
Yeah.
And you're selling thousands, so it's hundreds of billions of dollars. And his commission is not, it's a couple percent.
That's
right?
On $100 million. That's pretty good.
No, on $20 billion.
Yeah, well, that's really good then.
Yeah. So I said, well, it must take a while to sell. He said, yeah, about 25 years. He was just starting to sell his third fleet. He was in his 60s. He's been doing this since he was a kid. Just starting for his third sale, right?
And, he probably has more money than either of us.
Oh, not well. By now he's probably dead. That was a long time ago. I mean, he was in his 60s then, and it's 40 years later, give or take. But so, the website that's trying to get an instant sale versus the thing that's trying to build an audience over a period of time. The typical time involved in an angel to exit sale is, weeks for the initial sale, and then maybe a month to 3 months for an advisory board, and so forth. But the sales for the cybersecurity, to enterprises, it's unusual for it to be less than 6 to 9 months.
Sure.
and the stuff that we sell. So Chris and I, at Fearless,
yeah,
so we made our first sale through the channel partner within 3 months of when we started the channel partner relationship. 2.5 years later, we made our second sale. so it's a different kind of sale, and your website is not going to be anything like a determining factor. In fact, if it enters into the conversation, it's not going to be my website, it's going to be my channel partner's website.
Right.
So,
right. And
so it's just a very different thing, right?
It's a very different thing. But
right. But then there's the other part, right? And the other part's what we're going to discuss today.
Right. And as a matter of fact, I have something to show you. I'm going to just pop this into my browser here, although the Zoom thing.
Well, tell them what we're going to discuss today. I set you up really well for this. And
you did. So we're going to discuss a couple of things. One is should marketing, or sorry, I've got that backwards. Should service and support be part of marketing? But as you kind of started down this path, Fred, I'm going to explore this a little bit further, which is how what I do, which is it's a longer term strategy for making sales, actually works in cybersecurity. And there's a great example of that I just discovered. Let me just bring that up here.
All right.
And so this is
you got to be a little bit quicker on the draw here. It seems like your brain can only do one thing at a time.
Well,
right? When you're talking, you can't seem to click on a web thing.
That's why I have problems chewing gum and walking.
Oh, do you really? I just swallow the gum. It's no problem.
Well, then it's inside you still from when you were 12, remember? Because it lasts in your stomach forever.
Oh, no, come on. You're saying gum never leaves?
Well, that's what our moms told us when we were kids. If you swallow gum, it never digests and will build up in your system over time. That's how they got us to not swallow gum. I don't know why that was a problem, but that's what they told us when we were kids.
Because they wanted you to stick it on the bottom of your chair and take which was the culture at the time, right?
Leave a gift for somebody else. So this is Accenture's cyber security website. And so last week, one of the things we talked about, Fred, was how in the cybersecurity world, the main emotion they tend to evoke is fear in order to sell their product. And my comment has always been that's very transactional and it doesn't give you a built brand. And last week we discussed how an associate of ours, as a matter of fact, somebody who pitched to ADE this week, is getting a lot of pressure from her community to go to this particular show, whose website we looked at last week. Now, obviously, those guys have created an environment where they don't just do the selling anymore. The participants of the conference do it on their peers. And this is... So
now I know who you were talking about. I had no idea what you were talking about last week.
And so this is what I see as the cybersecurity industry, and certainly, whatever you think about Accenture, they're certainly one of the lead vendors in this space. This is no longer fear marketing. This is branding. This is cyber resilient business. This is something that they can now tell a story about. And as opposed to, if this breaks, everybody in the world will die. This is what it is, why it matters, and where it's going. And so this starts being more conversational. It starts invoking curiosity as opposed to fear. And this will allow them to build a community around this and supporters around this that will then sell to each other as opposed to just Accenture selling this to everybody else. So this...
Okay, but that wasn't the subject of our conversation today.
No, you just took me down this tangent, so...
Well, we can go here and just come back to this conversation next time, but I thought I had a great setup for you. Because I'll tell you that Fearless, so Fearless Security is, but it's now, I think we just call it Fearless Cyber, whatever it is. Fearless was based on that principle, right? That we're not going to sell fear was one of the fundamentals.
Right.
Right. And we have these things now we call pathfinders and path keepers to keep you on the path we found. Right. And now, so I was talking to Chris, my partner in this, last night, and one of the things that we're now presenting, sort of the path that we talk about here, is, Fearless, we're trying to, find you a fearless path to your future,
Right.
right? Yeah. So, it's not about fear, it's about enablement, right? So, for example, if you wanted to have an event where you had a drone army, coming into a facility, and they had lasers for some laser light show, right? The fear approach would say, "Oh my God, what? You're going to have 1,000 drones in this football stadium shining lights into people's eyes? My God, all right, don't do it." Whereas if you have an effective protection program, then it enables you to do that thing which you otherwise, you'd be insane to do, right?
Right.
So it's really about enablement of the very positive path forward that we have for the future of the world in the cyber era.
Okay.
That was it. That's all I had.
Okay. So the general theme for today was, should service and support be under marketing? And my take on that is that it absolutely should be, or at least have some direction for marketing. Marketing should be involved in that. And the reason I think
normally it's an operations issue, right? That is operations. If I have a Xerox machine, a copier, it's no longer that's branding at its best, right?
Or Hoover. Yeah.
Yeah, Hoover that up. Yeah. All right. So if I have a copier, service and support. So and this goes way back, right? But it used to be, these copying machines were big. They were, 20 feet long, and some of them still are, 6, 7, 8 feet high, and 6 feet wide, and they had this, powdery ink and crap in them, and so you'd call the repair person, and again, this is specific to Xerox, but I suspect it was true of Nokia and everybody else. You call the Xerox person to come and fix it, and the Xerox person comes in white shoes, white socks, white pants, white shirt, white tie, white jacket. Now, this person is servicing printer ink, which anybody who gets bloody near the machine just gets black as can be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This person all in white comes in, goes in, and does everything that has to be done. That machine is working perfectly, and you don't see one black speck on this person going out. And that was a huge part of their training, was to get people who could do this.
Yeah.
Without just not even getting a speck. Now there's branding, right?
Yes. That is taking the branding all the way down. And that's when companies could afford to do that stuff like that, and they would do it. And again, my argument is that has longer term payoffs than the accountancy. And it may not make you money this quarter, but in the next 10 quarters, it's going to make you a lot of money.
Right, because you just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It was like a show, right?
Yeah. So
you just went to the coolest show ever, because if you just got near that machine, you'd have black all over you. And this guy, while you put his hand inside in his jacket, which is all white, and all this black stuff is there, and not a speck. How do you do that? so there's a showmanship in it, but that's a tremendous example, I think, of how marketing drives into service and support.
Exactly. And so you compare that with a lot of the experiences that everybody we know have had recently with terrible customer support, being caught in phone trees, all of the stuff that companies do these days to spend less money on it. And it just tells you about, how a brand is affected by that particular touch point, which is, in my mind, and of course I'm a brander, so I have a bias, one of the most important touch points that any company makes with any of their customers.
So you talk about, image and the perception. There's a whole other issue when you talk about service and support. So a lot of what we have done with information technology, we're talking about cyber security and cyber in general, is efficiency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens here is, and it's also true, by the way, just as a security mechanism, you sort of have to give up some amount of efficiency, some amount of well, I don't know what there's a better word for it, but I think, but you're giving up, you're giving up security for convenience.
Yeah.
right?
Ease, yeah.
And,
They trade off.
right. And so now my belief is that it's not that. That's fatally flawed conceptualization.
Okay.
Right? If you start with the wrong concept, you're going to get to the wrong answer every time.
Yep.
Or as I like to say, aiming at the wrong target.
Yep.
It should be that the security is transparent and automatic. Right? That's well done. It's not interfering with you. It's not causing you to be unable to do your work because you had to authenticate the 47th time today. Right? It's enabling you to do things that would otherwise be dangerous because the security is so well thought out that it's transparent and automatic, or at least, let's say, you feel good, you feel safe because you know it's there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was discussing this again, you know, this morning with the notion that if you go to an event, you're going through these turnstiles and you have these machines that you untake all your stuff out of your pocket and you put it in a dish and you know, it's like, what an inconvenience. Well done. That technology would be you just walk through there and it knows you don't have a gun, you don't have a knife, or it says, we know this person and we know that they're not going to go shooting anybody. Right? We know from their history they're not somebody that gets in fights. Right?
Well, isn't that the big debate that's going on in the news these days about facial recognition versus privacy?
So that's a fascinating discussion and debate. When you say privacy, whatever that is,
oh, now there's a good question.
Cameras out there. How is facial recognition reduce your privacy?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, if the camera's already looking at you and recording you, how is it that recognizing that you're, you know, and when you say recognizing, mostly it's recognizing that you're either a member of the group or not, and usually the group they're looking for is, you know, criminals, or, you know, recent
right, you know what?
homicide people, right? You know.
Fred, this is probably great fodder for our next podcast, but right now we're talking about service and marketing.
Oh yeah, well, all right, we can get that.
you know, pack a bag. We're going on a tangent. You and I do that really well.
So tell me about it. So you think service is all part of marketing, and I think that what the images you're trying to project is indeed part of service.
Yes.
But the question is, what is that thing you're trying to project?
Right. And
right.
And would any of the experiences that are so common today for, you know, everybody we know, and certainly everybody listening to this podcast, and you and I personally have had terrible experiences, you know, on
all right, look, it's easy. Airlines.
Okay, airlines. There's
airlines. Oh my God, nobody likes the airlines. If you didn't have to fly to get there, you would rather, you know, crawl, probably.
Walk, yeah. Or I think another great one is Google. I think Google does an awful job of support. They basically provide none for most of their clients, unless you're spending, you know, millions of dollars a month with them. But
right, you can't get that help, but they have all these things that you're supposed to look through. So this is a fundamental of the automated answering systems and what they're trying to cure in dialogue systems,
right,
but haven't cured yet. And that is that when there's a human there, I simply tell them what I want to know, and they know enough to figure it out and do the right thing. Whereas the other, either I'm going through a bunch of menus that do the wrong thing, or I'm talking to a chat bot and they're sending me back automated responses that are not quite right.
Right.
And today, even humans keep sending me back their automated responses instead of answering my questions.
Right.
And usually what I do is say, stop sending me automatic answers. You know, read what I sent you and address my question.
Mm-hmm.
And then they start to pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. And what gets me even more is when they force humans to do that. I was on customer service with a little tracker I have for my dog, because she runs off into the forest occasionally. And they weren't acting like people. They were acting like robots. They were just going through a script. And, you know, at one point, the problem was solved, but they wanted to keep going through the script. And I just have to keep telling them, stop talking. We know what the problem is now. And, you know, I understand they're wanting to save money on people at customer service, but if you're actually going to have people talking to your customers, don't you think they should be trained just a little bit on how the product actually works?
So, so getting back to that,
so that to me turned me totally off from this company.
It's efficiency or effectiveness, right?
Yes.
What I think works best is effective things done efficiently.
Yes.
But we have this debate all the time because you keep, looking at my websites or my operational websites, not the outer facing, but when you log in and you actually get something done, and you keep saying, well, it just doesn't have the look and the feel that sells, right? But it's actually a support function, and the support function really is designed for you to be, as you get used to it, much more efficient and effective than you would otherwise be. And so I'm making the bet that support, that marketing, and remember, my brand is that, right? Mm-hmm. Efficient, effective, get to the end, let's go.
No fluff, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, it says it on, Angel Exit says it right on the website, right?
Right.
It says,
right.
Right. Yeah. We're not wasting your time. Let's go. And this is what my brother said. Okay.
Yeah, but we already know the discount both of you.
I'm seriously concerned now, right? So my brother said, stop it. Let me just read the thing, but he also, sends these email threads where you have 5 things and so you have 5 different answers to those things, each with 2 options. So you now have 10 things. And he's going to send an email back that responds to all 10 things with 6 different possibilities each. So now you're into 60 things. and every email has to cover them all or say, yes, but you didn't cover this one, right?
Oh my God. Next time your brother's in town, you have to promise that we'll all have a drink together or something, because it'll be fun to watch the 2 of you.
Oh, no, it's not. We have a term for the interaction between descendants of the same grandparents, but that's another issue altogether. But my point is that, as always, people say, so what's the best way to do it? And the answer is that depends, right?
Yeah.
What are you trying to project? Clearly, these guys are trying to project something that isn't fear, it's resolution. But notice the image here is a pair of scissors trying to cut, a plant, and the scissors break instead of the plant breaking.
Right.
So it's still, there's some fear. It's just I've survived the fear, right? You can't hurt me.
Right. Exactly. Which is, been my argument for cybersecurity for a long time, which is, the idea is not to make people afraid. The idea is to make people confident. I think that, this stuff is out there, but I can be smarter. I can be stronger. And
okay, but
you have a phrase.
What you just said is this stuff is out there, right?
Yes.
Because there has to be fear. If there is no fear, so nobody in their right mind would buy security. Let's put bars on the windows of our house, right?
Right.
Why would I ever want to do that? The purpose of the windows is for me to be able to see out. Right? Right? But I'm going to put up bars because somebody might throw a rock through and climb in and do whatever they do. This is fear and resolution.
Yes.
So I think you may not be able to escape that if you're claiming to be in cybersecurity, but their claim is we're in resilience.
Right.
So they're trying to escape it by that message.
Right.
So
my branding advice to companies a lot of the time is try to put your customers in the emotional state you want them in when they're happy using your product. And in cybersecurity, that's feeling secure, feeling that you win. You have a phrase that I really like a lot, which is very simple. I am not afraid. And what cybersecurity companies really are doing is helping people get to that state. And they seem to just have stopped on the fear part.
They're not. They're trying to keep them afraid so they keep paying.
Yeah, but they keep paying more if they felt better more.
No. I'll tell you a story.
All right.
So in the early antivirus days, there were companies selling antivirus tools that kept popping up messages saying, I'm checking this, I'm doing that, sometimes interfering, but they're always there saying, I'm doing this. Oh, I found something. Oh, you might be afraid. Oh, this. Oh. And And then, I had a company and a technology that didn't do that. It just sat there in the background and made sure it still worked.
Mm-hmm.
So if a virus would corrupt a program, it would automatically just fix the program and leave a log file saying I took care of it, but it's still working right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Guess which one sold better and stayed on the market?
The other one.
That's right. And so we started to ask some customers about this, because that's what you do. And so we had customers that had this installed and embedded in systems, and it was running for years. And they never had any viruses, they never had any of these problems. It was working just great. But then they went to get the next generation of systems, and they forgot it was there. It was so transparent and automatic. They were like, I don't know, is there something there? So then, of course, they went to get the next generation. They didn't, get the next generation of our stuff, and I'll claim it's my fault for not continuing to communicate effectively. But they went to the thing that made noise, and the more noise it made, the more they wanted to have it, because it made them feel better, because it induced the fear and the resolution.
Right.
So there's a problem.
And also kept them afraid. So it was actually, if that's the effect it had, it was brilliant.
Well, it was. I can assure you, it was accidental. It's not because they planned it; it's because they didn't know how to write an interface.
Right. It's never attribute to malice what you can explain by
stupidity. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So in any case, I'm just. There is a support function in cybersecurity that says you have to keep them afraid. Right.
And that's my basic problem. That's my basic question is, why afraid? Why not confident? Why not send them one ping at the end of the day, say, hey, this is what happened today and we fixed it all. Don't worry about it.
Well, but you see, there's fear in that, right? If you were really selling it with no fear involved, you wouldn't be telling them something bad didn't happen because I saved you.
Well,
you're just telling another wonderful day just passed, and it's great to know you, but you have a computer sending that to you, and it's like, no, I'm not interested in a computer saying have a great day again.
No, indeed. But you might be interested in a computer saying, gosh, we saw a couple of these things come in today. You might want to watch out for tomorrow or something like that.
Really, no. Really, what I want is to not have to worry about it.
Yes, but what you've just said is that case study that you just talked about, people need some level of communication from the thing that's protecting them in order to know that they continue to be protected and to keep them aware of it. Because if it is doing what you say, that service becomes invisible and they forget that it's there.
Well, so if I go outside and I don't have a hat on, my head gets wet.
Yes.
Right? So if I had an automatic way to put hats on people, so you go outside and it automatically puts up your hat, or an umbrella or whatever, pretty soon you'd forget you had it.
Well, except you would know when you had a hat on your head.
Well, that's my point. I mean,
yeah.
So it's physical instead of cyber, but so somehow, all right. So when I walk down the streets of a nice little town that's near here, we go down Pacific Grove, right?
Mm-hmm.
You walk through Pacific Grove, and it has the look and the feel of a nice place. A safe place, an easy place.
Mm-hmm.
And all of your interactions reflect that.
Yes.
And so that's why you like to go to PG. It's a nice place.
Yeah.
Get a good meal. It's a nice place to go for a walk. You can see the ocean, pick up a coffee, a tea, or whatever, and so forth.
Yep.
It's not because they have a policeman sitting there saying, we're good today. Nobody's assaulting anybody here. So how do I do that, right? How do I make it so look at Apple as a walled garden.
Yeah.
Right? And their view of the walled garden is, we're not going to tell you about security. We won't tell you about any vulnerability. We'll just send an update that says it's a critical update, and it'll just take place. And if possible, we'll do it without telling you about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just take care of it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a very big following because their focus is on the beauty and the wonder of their mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
And without looking under the hood.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of the point. People feel safe when they use Apple because of that.
Mm-hmm.
People feel safe when they use Android, well, a little bit less so, because these things screw up all the time.
Right.
and the interfaces are weird, and the Bluetooth doesn't work sometimes, and it does stuff that you're saying, why did it do that? Or who knows what. But if they got to where they were slick, and by the way, Apple's phones aren't that slick, but if they got to where they were as slick as the normal operating environment for Apple,
Mm-hmm.
then it wouldn't be about security. You wouldn't sell security.
Right.
And part of my philosophy here is, security really isn't something that should hit the consumer or the user. It should all be, a back end, business to business, and actually, I sort of think the people that, build the computers should just have it included, and that they should have liability for failing to do so.
Well, so we've been alluding to this topic, well, almost the whole this show, which is there's a huge difference between designing something in from the beginning and layering something on after you've designed it. And that's true in marketing as well. One of the things I work on with a couple of my clients is building their brand across the life cycle of their company. So it changes over time, and it can change over time. And when you build that in, it becomes a part of the company or a part of the product, and it grows with you over time. So if people were building PCs and operating systems and all of that stuff with security in mind from the very beginning, it would be a lot more like, I think, what you're talking about.
All right, well, blame IBM, and we can have that discussion.
IBM and Intel and all the big early guys.
Oh, no. IBM specifically, when they were coming out with the PC, it was a race to have the first one that shows up that functions. And the winner was, a DOS environment, because it was their first, I believe. But the option was there are other systems at that point that had, process separation that they didn't choose.
Yes.
And so there was a lot of years we had that, and there's still embedded elements of, MS-DOS 0.1 code is still in there somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And you encounter it, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. In any case, now we've wasted 35 minutes almost of these people's time.
Of everybody's time, and I hope you all had a really great time with us, wasting our time as well. And
but unfortunately, you're not going to be able to read what we said.
Yes, well, we could do that, but you say that it exposes us to threats, so we're not doing it. So anybody who wants to hear us have to listen.
That if you read this video and we talked about the flower and the scissors, you wouldn't know what the heck we were talking about.
That's absolutely true. All right, it's time to wrap up this OSG podcast. We grow cybersecurity companies. Goodbye from Adam. Goodbye from Fred.
Bye.
Bye.